Hey, Matt.
Hey, Lori.
Hey, guys, today we are going to be talking about addiction. How do you, when you are working with people in therapy and they are working through addiction, alcohol, pornography, social media, sex, something, how do you help them to see that their addiction is not the root of the issue?
Well, one of the things that I like to do, and I'll use pornography as the primary example because that's most of what I deal with. People will come in and they're aware that pornography is a bad thing, that it's something they want to stop, that it's something they want to kind of overcome in their life. But oftentimes they will stop and say, well, okay, the only time this becomes an issue is when when I start thinking sexually or when I start sexualizing kind of my world.
Huh.
And that's often with pornography kind of the final destination, but the system that it's built upon is something that starts much sooner.
And that's what you've been developing, is these systems of seeing the world. What are those?
Yeah, and so I call them the mindsets. Mindsets, yes. And so I've identified, like in my working with clients, 5 specific mindsets that when I look at people who use pornography, especially systemically, it's going to cultivate these 5 mindsets.
Okay.
And so briefly overview, 1 is control. Pornography is a means of exerting control over your life. 2 is passive. It is a passive mindset.
So number 2 is a passive. So the first one is they have a mindset, a way of viewing the world, or worldview, you could say, of control, and then they also are passive at the same time.
Yes.
Don't those contradict each other?
Yes, sometimes, but no, not in this case, because they become passive to their real life. They aren't present to what is really going on as a means to try and feel like they are in control of something.
Passive to their real life, then they try and control something else to make them feel like they're in control of their real life.
Yes, it's the feeling of control. It's not actually being in control because they're not actually present in their real life at that moment. And so it's an escape. So control, passive. It's also very novelty-seeking. It's fickle. Pornography is fickle. If you watch one video enough, it's no longer gonna cut it for you. You start to look for different things. It goes harder, it goes younger, it goes all sorts of ways that you maybe never intended it to.
So let's switch a second from if they're addicted to porn, if they're addicted instead to food or addicted to social media. I'm going to just go with the 3 and then I want to hear the last 2. So they are controlling. So, if you're addicted to social media, shoot, that can get real controlling, and how you posture your life and how you see what you see, who you follow, who you unfollow. You can get obsessed with it. But then you can be passive to, seems like, often your real life. Is that true?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, novelty seeking. You have to do bigger, better, more numbers. Okay, what's the 4th one?
4th one is it's consumptive. And this is something where you no longer are looking at people in pornography or in social media. Honestly, you're no longer looking at people as people. They are a number to you. They are an object to you. And then the final one is it's fearful. There's usually this strong fear-based, self-protective kind of mindset going on. And so that leads us to these places of escape and feeling like we're in control. And so one of the reasons that I like to talk in this mindset is because it really helps to level the playing field. In the sense that, okay, you talked about social media. Social media is definitely consumptive. It's definitely this fearful thing, and you can become passive to your real life, the real relationships that you interact with.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something that, okay, you can use it as a means of controlling or exerting influence, trying to garner more followers, but it is this very consumptive thing.
I'm just inserting anything in my mind. I'm like, you can, whatever your idol is, whatever your addiction is, if it's your kids, you can turn them into a score, a college they get into, if you talk about the what was the objectification one? That's what? The consumption. So people turn into objects. If you're addicted to shopping, okay.
Well, and I think the biggest reason I like to use this is because we can see something like porn. We can see something like alcoholism. We can see something like drug addiction and be like, oh, well, that's bad. But if you start looking at these mindsets, you see them active in so many parts of life that we don't ever question. Someone in their relationship with their spouse can be very controlling and consumptive in the way that they approach their spouse. Someone who is, I don't know, insert other acceptable thing. Social media is fairly acceptable. Someone at work can be so consumed and so seeking that novelty, the next big thing. And ultimately, the thing that it gets down to is when you look at God, he is none of these.
Ooh.
Rather than consumptive, he's creative. Rather than passive, he is present. Rather than fickle, he is faithful. Rather than fear-based, he is loving. And rather than controlling, he is trusting.
Wow.
And you see these anytime you are in real relationship with someone and real relationship with God. It's going to take trust. It's going to take being vulnerable. It's going to take a loving approach, trusting them, not consuming, but hopefully creating and cultivating something with them. It's productive. And so all of these mindsets, if you look in your life outside of just the direct place of struggle, you will probably find that there are many places where they start to creep in. Whether that is food, whether it's money, whether it's relationships. But somewhere you're going to see these places start to create the foundation that a lot of the bigger sin struggles kind of rest on.
Shoot, Matt, this is awesome. And I know this is something that you've been working on forever. And by that, I mean probably 6 months or so. But I'm really grateful for you. If you guys want to chat more with this guy, I mean, he does offer counseling in the state of Michigan, etc. But you're welcome to hit him up at caringwell.net. Or if you want to look for any of our resources, including our Impossible Marriage book, you can go to impossiblemarriage.com. Thanks, guys, so much for sharing, liking this. I like you.
I like you too.
And you guys too. All right, see ya.